So we're gonna work on a couple bears that already have some cracks. I've already started some work. If you guys can see them there behind me. Right, we've got some things going on here in this guy's face. I am live, but this will probably upload because I'm not gonna be on here very long. I wanna keep this about a half hour. Kind of a quick, live, somewhat tutorial on dealing with cracked bears. Now, I know cover says how to prevent your bears or your carvings from cracking, right? That's what it says. It got you here, right? How to prevent that. Don't carve them from wood. Make them out of plastic. And that's how you keep your bears from cracking. Listen, if you're gonna carve out of wood, it's gonna crack. All right, guys? If people get on here and start chatting, I'm sure I will end up repeating myself because I'm live right now, but this will upload later. Just about everything cracks. It's almost impossible to fully dry a log, but there are a few things that you guys can do to get away from that cracking happening a lot more than usual. So, for example, if you carve from a regular round log like this, right? This bears out of a regular round log. These were carved a while back. There are a couple techniques you can do to, hey, how's it going, Steve? There's a couple techniques you guys can do to kind of help prevent the face from cracking. It's wood. I sell my carvings basically with a crack guarantee. It's gonna crack. It's gonna dry out and it's gonna crack for the most part. Now, if you're carving out of a round log, one thing you can do with smaller carvings is do a line top to bottom with the nose of the chainsaw. Cut into the back of the head, cut down, there it is. So what's the point of that? It's a relief cut, and hopefully the front of your carving won't get any bad cracks. If you look at his face, there's nothing crazy going on. We do have some up here just from the center of the log drying out more, but I don't have to worry about his nose falling off or nothing like that due to a big giant crack. So you can do a relief cut, right? Another thing you guys can do to get away or slow down or not deal with a big gigantic crack in your carving is quarter your logs. Let's see. You know what? I don't think I have any in here. I've got them outside. But you quarter your log. So if you have the ability to get big, giant logs, quarter them. Hopefully you all know what quartering a log means. And if you don't, well, let's draw it on the bottom of this guy. Right? So you got your big log. It's on end. You can lay it flat. Split it right down the middle once. Your log, right? So now you got two halves. Then cut it, cut it. Now you have 4 quarters. Carve your bears out of those quarters. Why do you say quarter them rather than just carve the round log? Well, hold on. I was eating peanuts. I got a shell. If you quarter it when it dries, you get less cracking. So why? Why do we get all this cracking in a round log compared to a quartered chunk of wood? Well, a round log, still wet. Even if it sits for a couple years, it's still wet. Wood only air dries about 1 inch per year. So it takes 1 year to dry this much of a slab, right? Slab's this big, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So now if you're dealing with a log, the center is almost never gonna dry before it starts to rot and things like that. So what happens though in the drying process, especially with smaller pieces, bigger pieces will do it too, is as that log dries, right? Pretend this is a log. The outside of your log dries faster than the middle of the log. And so as the outside dries, it can't shrink in because the center is not drying at the same pace. That center stays solid and the outside of that log pulls apart and shrinks around the center until the piece is dry. So this is what happens. You end up with a crack all the way to the center of that log from the outside in, all the way in. So it has dried and shrunk around the center, splitting your piece. Now, like I said, some of you are just jumping on here. How do we prevent that from happening? You know, how do we keep that from ever happening? We don't. We just take measures to hopefully prevent it. There's no guaranteed fix here. There's no, you know, this is definitely going to happen or work, you know, it's definitely going to crack. And if it doesn't, then you got lucky. Quartering your logs, cutting those logs in half and then carving out of them. Cutting them in half this way and carving out of the half of the log, okay? That's gonna help prevent cracking. So, all right, you didn't do that, or you did do that, and you still have cracks that you need to fix, right? So the first thing, well, a couple things you guys wanna do. One, get yourself some wooden wedges. I'm lucky, I've got a bandsaw. I'm lucky enough to have that tool in my shop, so I've got some very small cracks on another bear, so I cut very, very small wooden wedges. They could be anywhere from, you know, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 2 inches long. How long is the crack and how straight is the crack you need to repair? All right. In this case, the wood's dry, so I'm using really dry wedges. There's no more moisture in these. These were actually kept inside, and so they're dry. I can feel it. The weight difference. There's a big weight difference when all the moisture's gone out of the logs, or almost all the moisture. So once you have some wedges, which you can get cedar shingles, things like that at Ace, door wedges, window wedges that you use to put in new doors, new windows. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can get stuff like that. Find a guy that does some woodworking and say, hey, crazy question, could you cut me wedges, and pay him for his time and have him cut you a 5-gallon pail of wedges, and then you have them. The next thing you guys definitely need though is Gorilla Glue. This stuff right here. We're going kind of quick because I want to be on here for a half hour or less so this video can upload and everybody can watch it and, you know, get some use out of it. Gorilla Glue. This brown goopy stuff that kind of looks like honey. It foams 4 times the size. So you put a little bit in there and it's going to foam up. That's what you want. So what you want to do is you lay your carving down. There's 2 ways of fixing them, okay? You lay your carving down, you put that glue in there. Wearing gloves is a good idea because this stuff is sticky and it doesn't come off. I usually wear gloves when I'm applying that glue because your hands are just, they get really, really nasty, and you gotta like wash them off in lacquer and acetone, and I don't feel like putting my hands in those chemicals. So anyway, you put your glue all in there and you start pushing your wedges in. I push them all in by hand, and then I might go through and just give them a light tap. I don't want to hammer it in there because you're just going to split your bear that much farther. We're just trying to fill those cracks so we can come back through and make it, you know, look like new or close to new. Now the only place where it gets kind of tough doing this is down here on the base. So if you got a big crack down here, you end up seeing your repair. You almost always do. So sometimes I don't even fix this crack, but I fix these other ones. It's the base, you know, at least the bear won't have a big split. Now another option is using the same Gorilla Glue with throwaway gloves on and mashing it up in sawdust, fine sawdust, right there from chainsaw carving. Take that and pack it into the crack. And then you can put a line of glue over it and pack it again with fresh sawdust that's not all gluey and sticky. You do that, you let it dry, and you get this hard surface here that's covered in sawdust that's usually pretty strong to work with. Now sometimes there's voids. You end up with voids because the glue bubbles and foams, and so it doesn't always seal super tight like this. So you know, it's kind of like it'll work. You got to take your time and really and pack the glue and the sawdust in there. Now you can do both together. You can put your wedges in with the glue, and then the little spots where the wedges don't quite fit, get some really fine sawdust and pack that in. Then as everything foams and sets up, you'll have a decent surface to carve away. All right, so we did our repairs, right? You're at this point, you're like, okay, cool, whatever. Well, if you've already created a bear, you should have a general idea of what you're gonna do next. Quite simple. Take that saw you normally carve with, or whatever you do to finish your carvings with, go back through and start removing those wedges. wedges, put your fur pattern right back in at the same time. And that fur pattern should not stop at the new repair. It should cross right over the new repair. Right? So you did your furring, it crossing back and forth over the fur pattern, lining up with the fur you originally had done. Now when you look at this, you may see voids. There are some voids in here, okay? And what you can do at that time, again, mix up some glue, find sawdust, wear those throwaway gloves, get it worked together, you know. Start packing that in there if you want an even nicer finish, an even smoother finish. Now, you don't always have to do that extra little step, you know, you can get away with this. And let's see here if we got air out here today. Dust it off well. Grab the paint you normally paint your bears with, wherever mine is, right? So we already carved it. The glue's dry. Now this crack I could fit my pinky in. That's how wide it was originally in a couple spots. And boom. You almost, once that dries, you almost can't even tell there's a repair in there. All right? And that's how I repair all my carvings, not just bears, but everything. And when I take custom orders that are usually over a certain amount, I will do the first repair for free as long as they can get it to me and get it back. If it's something on site that's big, then we have to discuss it, and that's something different, you know, because your time and gas and all that has to go into driving out and back and all that kind of stuff. But doing it like this with small bears that can be dropped off, customers that want repairs done are usually more than willing to bring that carving to you so you can repair it. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time out of your day or your time that you have, but you're generating a good customer base. Customers will be happy with the fact that you're repairing those pieces that you guys made. All right, so if you guys have questions about repairing bears or how to prevent your bears from cracking, just ask. All right, I'll be on here for a few more minutes, and hopefully this video is going to upload. I mean, we kind of went through this in about 15, which that's all right. So you might be looking at the bottom here and you can see your color difference still. One way to bring that back to getting it kind of dingy, or you know, whatever color it is, you can use your torch, add a little color back to it. Just hit it, darken it up, go over it with the brush, and then usually you're pretty good, and it'll clean it right up for you. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for stopping in. And then that's all set. Now, if there is any charring down here, go through, hit it like this with a brush, good stiff bristle brush, you're done. So this repair is done. This bear is probably going to get a little bit of fresh white in the eyes, and then he's going to get a fresh coat of clear. But I'm going to wait and repair all of them at once so I can clear coat all of them at once. Probably maybe later today, later this evening, if I can get them all done. We'll line them all up in here in the tent, clear coat them, and then by morning they're dry and they're ready to go. Because I got a few repairs in here actually. These carvings are from a store I sell through. They like to buy stuff up front and then resell, which I don't always do. A lot of times I sell stuff on consignment, but when a store wants to do that, that's fine as well, you know. But when the bears crack, if they didn't sell or they got them near the end of the season, sometimes places will bring them in for the winter, which is great, but they split and crack. It's good and it's bad. It's good because the cracking, well, it's bad because it's cracked, right? But it's good because now the cracking's already done at the store rather than the customer's home. So they can just call me, I'll get them, or in this case, they drop them off or I pick them up, you know, whatever. Do the repair. This will go back to the store. And now hopefully the customer won't have to deal with a bear that cracks when they purchase it because he's already dried out from being inside the store all winter. So just some things to think about for new carvers, you know, looking at your carvings and thinking, geez, these things are cracking, what the heck. You know, I always tell customers, if you don't have to, don't put it right by a wood stove. It's good to not have it in direct sunlight. Is what it is, you know, all these sort of things dry them out super fast, and they crack. If they can dry slow, you can get away with small cracks, and that's not as bad to deal with. You know, most people don't even like repair these. Will it crack again? Hey Jim, how's it going? I'm only gonna be on here a few more minutes, guys. Maybe another 15 or so. I mean, it could. Depends on weather, depends on temperature, depends on how fast it heats up and cools down. I really haven't had to do second repairs as long as they were already fully dry. If the piece is not dry, chances are it's going to crack again, because, you know, you've got a gap like this, you fill it with wedges, and then it dries more. So it'll pop the glue and pop your wedges. So, you know, those are things that you gotta think about. So like when a customer gets an order, gets a bear like this, I ask where it's gonna be. Who's gonna be on my porch all year, blah, 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 in the sun, you know. All right, we'll give them a couple years. Normally, if the crack's big enough where you can put your finger in there, you know, or you can get a pencil in there, it's usually pretty good, ready for a repair. On bears this size. Bigger bears on bigger logs, that crack's gonna end up being even bigger sometimes. Sometimes you can get your hand, you know, but it depends on the piece. It doesn't always happen the same. Different woods can crack differently. You could be dealing with different stuff as well. So yeah, trying to think of what else. This other bear over here, he's 3 feet. Actually, yeah, he's about 3 feet tall. He's a bit heavier. He's out of red pine. He's cracked quite a bit, quite a few different places. He's got cracks down the face, down the chest, down the belly, down the front, and they're not very big. So he dried at a different pace than the rest, because the red pine's a little bit heavier, a little more dense. So I think it was still able to dry slower when it was inside compared to the yellow pine that I carve. That dries really fast, and so you tend to get big cracks, and you know that's what you end up dealing with when they're inside. Outside in the sun, again, can dry quick. Something else to keep in mind, you guys, when you're selling to customers or even giving to friends and family, if they're going to keep it out in their yard, it should not be in the ground or on the ground. There should be some gravel underneath it, some rocks, or some pressure treated lumber, just like 2 pieces that hold it up sturdy so the airflow is underneath that bear. Otherwise, they're absorbing the moisture from the ground through the bottom, sucking it up in, and that piece is slowly going to rot, deteriorate. The bottom will fall off, and the inside usually gets ants. They love to get in there, and they kill it. So you might say, well, why not seal the bottom of the carving? Well, my theory, and talking to others in the past, even though you've carved this log, I'm still giving it a place to breathe, because we're sealing it in with paint, we're sealing it in with a clear coat. The very bottom, I put nothing on the very bottom, and it's able to dry. The moisture is able to kind of come out of the bottom. Now it will crack still in other places, obviously, and breathe and release moisture, but that's just what I end up doing. That's how I deal with it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm gonna do this other repair. I'll come back, answer your guys' questions. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, if you guys are here and you're watching, give me a thumbs up, all right? Help that YouTube algorithm out. And Wednesday we'll be carving with Bob. I think Bob said something about that's Bob Ross Chainsaw Carving, if you guys don't know, but said something about carving up another scene from past paintings. So we'll see what happens there, see what comes of that. Should be fun. It usually is. So here's the bear, no wedges, just a little bit of glue and sawdust on the face. Tackle that repair the same way. You got to make sure that glue sets. Usually it takes a couple hours, depending on the humidity and the heat. It's a cool day today. There's a lot of moisture in the air, so things are taking a little while to dry for me. If you're in a very hot, dry area, it may work different. It might dry a lot faster, but even still, on the face, you just come through and remove it with your saw after you take the chain brake off. So another thing you can do, let's say you're like, man, I'm nervous to use the chainsaw to make that repair. What if I slip, I mess up, I ruin my piece that's already been done, because now it's a customer's piece, right? Keep that in mind. This is no longer yours, even though you made it. The customer already paid for this and took it home and brought it back for you to do a repair. You can't go messing this piece up now. You can't throw it away. They're attached, they love it, right? You can go ahead and use that die grinder. Use your die grinder. This is the 1/2 inch quarter shaft, 1/2 inch green coarse flame burr from Saburrtooth. You can use that to do any of the removal. Use the tip of it to go over the fur or create the fur. You take your wedges out carefully with the saw, leaving enough space, and just use this to go through and recreate what's already there. Let's see how much time we got. A couple minutes. All right, I got one more with wedges in there. Actually, we better dust this guy off and paint him or I'll forget. We'll do the die grinder on that one so you guys can see. Dust them off. And then while I've got it here, I also like to look and see, you know, is there anything that I could touch up? Is there a spot that, you know, maybe it's faded or you could use a little extra color? Go ahead and throw some extra color on there. You know, the customer brought it back to you to do a repair. You might as well touch it up, make it look good. You're going to re-clear coat the whole piece when you're done anyway, so, excuse me, put some fresh paint on it. You don't even have to paint the whole thing. Just do those touch-up spots. So let's look at this fella. All right, he's got a bunch of wedges. So instead of trying to shape the wedges with the saw, we're just going to take the saw and cut them off close, and then we'll go through with the die grinder to clean it up and make it look good as new. Now the lower portion, there's not a whole lot to do there. Down here, you're able to hit that with the saw, and for the most part you're cleaned up. I mean, you can sand it with the die grinder, obviously. Clean it up a little bit more if you want. Take your die grinder and get in there and create that fur pattern again. If you look, you should be able to see the lines from the fur pattern that was on it before. So in the case of this bear, he's going to need more glue and some sawdust added. And I'll show you guys what I mean, but I can actually put paint on him. The glue will stick in the crack, so that'll be fine. But all right, so you can see the belly up close. You can see the crack still that's there. The wedge and glue, I must not have put enough glue in to fully expand and seal it up. So we'll do the, let's see if I got a glove. Take some of these cheap gloves from Harbor Freight. Cost of gloves are absolutely through the roof. So if you buy throwaway heavy duty gloves, if you have a Harbor Freight, get them from Harbor Freight, but always buy one size bigger because the material is thicker. So I can get away with a large, but I buy extra large. One, because if I don't ruin this glove, I take it off and I reuse it because I'm cheap like that. But two, the material is a little bit thicker because they expect that bigger hand to stretch it out. So there's just a touch, I believe there's a touch more material. I've bought in mediums before, they rip out when you put them on. I've bought large, and I've, you know, you feel the difference between large and extra large. You can feel the thickness difference. So, just my opinion. All right, so yeah, we did paint this already, no big deal. We can either take the glue and just start packing it in there and jam the sawdust in there, or take a little bit of sawdust and something to put it on. Normally I got something over here, a piece of scrap. I've been picking up all the small scrap and chucking it out of here, so of course I don't have one to mix on today, so we'll use this piece. All right, we got this piece of scrap. We got some sawdust. I don't care if it's got long or short, or all right, we got just different size sawdust. I'm gonna put the glue next to it, not like in the middle of the pile, because I might not need all that sawdust. Might end up being too much. Gauge, you know, how much repair you're gonna want to do. Usually a quarter size to $half size of the glue is more than enough, because again, this expands 4 times the size. So, you know, we're gonna have 4 times that amount when the stuff starts to cure. Now with the hand that's got a glove on, not the other one, go ahead and just start kneading it together, you know, like you're making a cake or some pizza dough or something. Work it in, work more in, till you get a consistency that's, you know, still sticky and there's sawdust in it. Once it gets to that point, try to get it all together and get rid of the other sawdust. All right, I've got that mixed up. Now I said don't, but we want to mix that up first. I don't want anything to start setting up. We'll take a little bit of the glue, put it in the crack, just a little. Now we put glue in the sawdust and a little glue in the crack so that all the sawdust is a binder. The glue is the binder to the sawdust that we're gonna stuff in here, rather than just dry sawdust that we're, you know, hoping will all stick. Now it's almost a guarantee that all this sawdust will stick because we already mixed glue in it. So then using your hand, you could use an old screwdriver, you could use a piece of wood, a stick, you know, just start really packing it into the crack. Now you can get away with this on some bigger cracks as well, but you're going to use a lot more glue. It's going to take more time. You're going to go through a bunch of gloves because they do rip out when you start pressing and working this in here. Yeah, so that's why I do the wedges, and then we do the glue for like the smaller stuff that's got to get filled in. Pack it in a couple other spots here. Now this doesn't always foam crazy like when you just have the glue laid out. When you mix it with the sawdust, sometimes that sawdust helps tame the beast and it doesn't expand and ooze out and make this huge mess, but that's not always a guarantee. All right, so now that'll sit and that'll have to set up for anywhere for 2 to 4 hours. And that's really gonna just depend on the weather. All the moisture I have today and the cool air and stuff, I might not even get back to this repair until tomorrow morning sometime. That board broke right in half. And you know, that'll be that. And we'll fix it then when it's ready to go. Which is all right, because I got another one over here just off camera, that bigger one that I'm not gonna lift and grunt and groan and hurt myself on camera. I'll do that later. But you guys got any questions? I'm gonna look back through here. Ali D, do I get the wedges? Hold on, let me read your comment again. Do I get the wedges from offcuts or do you buy them? Just depends. I had some scrap wood in the shop, so it was just scrap lumber, basically, from lumber. And I'm using that scrap lumber because these pieces are really dry. So it was, you know, just like boards, and I ran them through the bandsaw to create my own wedges. And you can buy them usually at the hardware store, wherever lumber is sold. You know, you can find different wedges like cedar shakes. You can find the door wedges to help level a door or a window, and they're usually used for installs, but you can find them in little packs, little kits. You can use those. Now, as far as cutoffs go, it's not a bad idea, but honestly, if you guys don't have a bandsaw, because if you look down and you've been carving, I mean, I have been picking up, but still, oh, not good enough. I'm knocking stuff down, right? There's still always little pieces, because what do we do when we cut? We try to cut wedges, right? Triangles and wedges. So there's always stuff like this that you could use for sure. Use this stuff if you don't want to cut or buy your own. You know, if you want to take the time and go through your sawdust pile as you're carving and throw these things in a 5-gallon pail, and then when you need to do a repair, you've got them on hand, or just say the heck with it, I'll find them laying around when I've got to do that repair. So that's up to you guys, but that's it. That's all I got. If you're still here, or you just jumped on and you're like, wait a minute, you know, how do you prevent your bears from cracking? I originally said make them out of plastic. That's about it. That's all you can do. Wood's wood. It's gonna dry, it's gonna split, it's gonna crack. The chances that you have a kiln big enough to dry a gigantic log, or all the logs you're gonna carve, slim to none. And if you do, it's gonna take a long time, or you're gonna pay somebody a ton of money to dry your logs, and they're all gonna split and crack, and then at least you can pick and choose where your cracks are, and you know, you can cut them out and stuff like that. But it doesn't seem very cost effective to me though, to kiln dry logs. So that's it though, guys. I'm trying to keep this short so I can upload it and hopefully help some other people out with their cracked carvings. But I hope you guys are having a great day. If you haven't, give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave me a comment. If you guys have a question, comment in the regular comment section. And keep an eye out for Wednesday, chainsaw carving with Bob Ross Wednesdays. Bob will be here all dressed up with his wig and everything. I think Bob mentioned doing another piece, recreating a painting as a chainsaw carving again. So I think that's going to be the new Wednesday piece, new video. And we'll see what Saturday brings. Still, I don't know what's going on there, but hope you guys have an awesome day. Sorry, some of you are jumping on, but I'm going to be getting off. If you guys want to watch, we'll be uploading. So hope you guys have a great day. Have an awesome week. I'll see you guys later. Bye.